Hey, Michael, it's so nice to have you on the show today. How is it going?
It's going very well. How are you?
Doing just fine, and thank you so very much for being here. I truly appreciate it. And you see, Michael,
Oh, thank you
often,
for having me so I could share.
yeah, beautiful, awesome. Oftentimes, I love to thank my guests for two main things, and I do this so often to the point where I think it has even become my anthem. So, firstly, Michael, I want to say thank you for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you invested in yourself. And oftentimes, Marco, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, some months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, there was this tall, unattractive mango tree. And I use the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Marco, just recently I was on that same road, and this time around a lot's changed about the mango tree. You see, the mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance, and immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me. Because now the mango tree is looking all beautiful. It's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches. It was a special moment that day. I was so excited. I just kept staring at the beauty. You see, here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Marco that you are today, that alone has made it really impossible for me to say no to you or for me to skip you. And you see, getting to read about your bio, learn about the things that you're doing, and the impact your work is having, it is amazing. And that's a fruit that I became so attracted to. And I just couldn't wait for this conversation to start. And here we are today with the amazing Marco. So thank you so very much for investing in yourself, and thank you so very much for being here. I truly appreciate it. Thank you, my man.
You're very welcome. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I really appreciate it.
Beautiful, beautiful. So let's get started. You see, Marco, I'm quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information. And you see, Marco, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness means ignorance, I have been so keen to knowledge seeking because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. The second reason why I'm excited to have the amazing Mykal on the show is for the sake of the listeners. You see, Mykal, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, high-opening, and very important information, of which I'm totally convinced that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, Michael, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or professional journey. Right now we are just so curious. We want to know how Michael got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Michael, over to you.
Thank you very much. I will tell you that I went through the normal road that everybody went through. I had a decent family life. I had went to college. I started my career, but somewhere it went off the tracks because we need to, as you say, continue to work on ourselves and fix issues that come up. But what happens when you run across something you don't have an answer to? At this one point in time in my life, I was very successful. I was working as an international business consultant. I had the house, the family, everything was going well, except I was suffering from a couple of addictions. And I remember saying to myself, I really want to stop destroying my life, but I don't know how. I tried 12-step programs. I tried doing some counseling. They did not work for me. And eventually I traded the working as an international business consultant for being in prison. The addictions actually destroyed my life because I didn't find the answers to that question before I allowed it to happen. And that's when I began the search for how do I solve this problem? What am I going to do with the rest of my life? Because by the time I was getting out of prison, I was going to be 53 years old. What happened is I was listening to a motivational speech, one of these sports motivators that was just fire and brimstone, and he was talking about you got to grind every day. That made me angry because I had just ground my life into the dirt. And at that point in time, I realized the process that I need to go for recovery must be a creative process, not a destructive process. And maybe because I was always a historical fantasy, historical fiction reader, this image of a forge popped into my head because it is a creative process. It may require fire, it may require hammering something, but it's still a creative process. You're looking to create a work of art from that process. And that became the basis for what I teach now. The only thing
Amazing.
is, there were quite a few steps to get there.
That's amazing. And you see, one thing that stood out for me is the fact that you went through all of those stuffs, you fought it, you overcame, and now you are serving the solution to other people. You don't want others to remain stuck in what you came out of. So you're offering a solution out there. And that's one of the great traits of a true leader. And it tells me that you're worth listening to. So thank you for all that you're doing. It's amazing. So let us talk about fathers in particular. How do you help fathers conquer addiction?
The first thing is that fathers have a tendency to hold everything inside. They do not share because they don't want to show their weakness. We're all about strength. We want to be known as being strong. But what I have learned in speaking about my issues and how I overcame it for the last 10 years is that every time I got on stage and I was vulnerable and shared that, I became even stronger. So I first need to inspire them to open up, show their vulnerability, and get the help that they need to overcome it.
It's amazing, and that's so true because there are a lot of fathers out there that are battling with one thing or another that not many people knows about. You know, you must not show your weakness, I tell you. And I love your approach as to solving that problem. That's a great one. So, but when was the turning point in your life? When was it exactly? When everything just turned around?
Well, the first turning point was the realization that nothing else in the world caused me to have the addiction. It was not an external thing. I am solely responsible for every decision and action that I took. But what happens is when we actually decide that it's nobody else's fault, everything is on us, that also gave me the power over it and allowed me to be able to go in and make the changes necessary because I wasn't dependent on anyone else for my recovery. And that power gave me the ability to say, okay, since it's all mine, what I have to change is me. We have to realize that all the decisions we make, everything that we do, is based on our identity of who we are. And we can change who we are. What we are is a collection of these ideas of who we are that make up our total identity, those characteristics that we have. But we can change every single one of them if we choose to and if we work on it. And that's where we go into the forge and we craft ourselves. We craft our identity. So we have to decide who we're going to be. And if we go in and look at the real crystallized ideas and we base them on somebody else that we admire, if we go in and look at Christ, for example, we need to craft ourselves in an image of somebody that we want to be like. We can take on those ideas and become that person. So we use our fire, that is what our passion is. We use our hammer to mold ourselves over and over and over again until we make it into the work of art that we have as that vision in our minds. Well, I have an old friend. We have been friends for 50 years. He and I are roommates, and we still like to play games like we did when we were kids. Whether it's Dungeons and Dragons or whether it's Magic, it's something that we can do that is just a little lighthearted fun. We can relax. But long term, what I'd really like to do, I'm looking to buy me a sailboat, push off from shore, and come back 10 years later after I've gone around the world. I want to stop at all kinds of ports and visit all kinds of people, collect all their stories, their myths, their legends, and I want to write about it. Well, it wasn't linear. There were times when we didn't talk much. One of the things that we learned from when I was in prison is that, man, we really should have kept up this friendship. I don't have many friends, at least not to that depth. A lot of them were just acquaintances. You know a little bit about them, but never shared everything that was happening to us. That is a rare thing. But I think it's something that we should do more of. I certainly know that I should do more of it. One thing that I learned, and this is part of the program that I designed, we must manage our environment carefully. We must sometimes take risks with changing the environments. And I'll tell you this, for example, when I was released from prison, the state gave me $324 and said, don't come back. That was it. Fortunately, my mother and my sister at least purchased me an old, rundown Ford Ranger pickup truck. But that became my home. I had no job, I had no home, but I was satisfied with that. Because the other option was I could go into the halfway house where I'd be housed with other people that were addicts. And therefore, I'm surrounded by people that are still going through the process and not all that interested in recovery. So I needed to stay away from that environment and go to a different environment, even if it meant being homeless, just so that I could surround myself with the right people, with the right attitude. I joined Toastmasters because I decided what I need to do is be a public speaker and share my message. So even though I was homeless, I went to meetings for Toastmasters every single week without failure, because that surrounded me with the people that were interested in growth, that were interested in bettering themselves. And I could work on bettering myself at the same time. That was a much better environment than going to live with a bunch of other people who were not interested in growing. Thank you for that. The last thought is this. If you have any inkling that your life is not where you want it to be, because you have some things that are controlling your life, whether it's alcohol, drugs, whether it's some kind of habitual thing like gambling or sex or pornography or anything like that, if that's controlling your life, altering your relationships, making it hard for you to advance in your careers, things like that, seek help. Even if it's just, hey, I need to know if this is really the problem. Reach out for that help. Have that conversation. If they want to reach me, I have a website called thelifeforge.com. I have a free report on there that you can download that would help you with your relationships and some other tips. And I also have other programs that I am doing where have a course that I teach that helps people get through that base foundation that gets them started on that path. Thank you. I appreciate it.